Hey Camp Myrex, it's Travis from Go Camp Pro. I reached out to all of the camp podcasters that I could get a hold of, and I asked them for one thing. One thing I've been thinking a lot about this year is the number of folks that are starting as brand new camp directors in 2024 or in 2023 and they're heading into their second season and just getting their feet under them. So when I reached out to the podcasters, I asked them for the one thing, which is what is your best piece of advice for a new camp director going into the summer? Keep it short and effective and something that people can really make use of. And so they did. And so this is what's happening here is the piece of advice from the folks that have gotten in touch with us, both from the Go Camp Pro team and from the other camp podcasts, some of the other camp podcasts as well. So I thank them for that, and I look forward to their information that's being shared in this podcast and in this video. So my best piece of advice is something that I learned in my first year as a camp director with Beth. I'd been a camp director for one summer, but when Beth came, camp got so much better. But one of the things I learned was from my own experience, and that is simply ask, don't assume. Always ask, don't assume. This came because I was hosting a meeting, an all-staff meeting, and I knew that there was one staff member who was missing. And I was very frustrated. I guess I've just been frustrated with her over some other things. And I left Beth in charge of the meeting, went from running around to try to find her. And I basically burst in on her in a room in our lodge and said, "Why aren't you at the meeting?" She was in the laundry room doing a camper sleeping bag at a time that no other campers would know. And so she could just subtly clean this camper sleeping bag without the other kids having some ammunition to make fun of this camper. Bad mistake on my part. I should have just gone in and said, "Hey, what's going on? How come you are not at this mandatory meeting?" Instead, I was mad and burst in. So that's my best advice. Always ask in those situations, "Hey, what's going on here?" When you see something you don't approve of, when you see something that you think doesn't match your mission, just always start with what's going on, ask and don't assume. Have a great summer. Take care.
Hey everyone, it's Allison from the Summer Camp Society here, and my tip for new or newish camp directors is to remember relationships first. It can be so tempting when you get a new job to dive right into looking through all the things that were left for you and to doing the job so that you can really prove yourself and that you're going to be really great at it. But you've got to slow down and build those relationships first. We know as camp people that relationships are the foundation of the community. They're the why of what we do, and they're the how we really do it effectively. And so spending time really getting to know the people who work with you, whether that's at camp directly or in the organization that you work for, actually both of those, and spending time getting to know campers and their families and boards and community members and just everyone, all of these stakeholders at camp, everyone who has anything to do with camp, getting to know them as best as you can and letting them get to know you is the most important thing that you can do. It's what's going to pay off the most in the long run. So get on the phone, go out and meet people face to face, go to events, build those relationships so that you can have a great camp.
My advice, well, let's call it a quest, really. My quest for you camp directors is at least at 2 points this summer to go out around camp and look for something awesome that's happening. In particular, look for a camper behavior that is just exemplifying what you want to see at camp. Whether it's some sort of kindness or character building or sharing or caring, whatever that may be, look for something awesome that a camper is doing. And then go back to your office and call that camper's parent and let them know what you just saw. The parents are going to be so grateful to hear from you, and they expect when the phone rings from camp that it's going to be something terrible. And so when you tell them, "Hey, your camper's fine. Actually, I just witnessed this really cool moment and I wanted to take a moment to share with you," they are going to be overjoyed in that. And it helps us put back on the glasses of all the good stuff happening at camp. It's easy to get into the habit of looking at all the fires that need to be put out and all the maintenance projects that need to be done. And instead, this puts on those rose-colored glasses and you can see the good stuff, create some great connections. It's going to make you feel good too. So give some parents a call, tell them what you see. They're going to really appreciate it, and you will too.
Hi, this is Cole Kelly from Camp Wacoyak and the Campfire Conversation podcast. I think my best advice for first or second year directors would be have a vision of camp that's inspiring for yourself, for your campers, for your staff members, for your families. And you want to promote that vision, and you want to tell that story in ways that gets everybody on board, gets everybody excited. Now, you want to do that with your staff with humility, especially with people like your maintenance director, with your head chef, your health center staff, your secretaries, everybody who really needs to be pulling along. You want to make their jobs easier, if you can, better, and you want to help them become more effective. And you need to have some humility because you're not going to know everything, and that's fine. You just need to make sure that everybody knows you're working like crazy to help them pull along that same vision path. And knowing that story and being inspired yourself by that story is really going to help you bring everybody else along. The kids and the staff, the counselor staff, they'll get excited because they're going to see you working like crazy to make that vision a reality. You want your professional staff around you to be doing the same thing, and you want to make their jobs easier and more effective in doing that. Good luck.
Welcome, new camp directors. For your first year as a camp director, I have 2 pieces of advice. One, look at what's good at the camp you're walking into and make sure that the people there know that they're doing that in a really good way. And then secondly, the things that you're going to want to change and make your own and fix, so be it. Make sure that you're only doing one. Look at what's most important to change, because trying to change everything you want to change about somebody else's camp is just way too much. Pick one thing to work on, and then next year pick another and go from there. Good luck to you.
Hi, this is Dave Sherry with the Sherry Group Podcast. We were asked to share a quick piece of advice for new camp pros, and here would be my piece of advice. Understand that there are literally thousands of recipes to make a great cookie. You don't have to stick with one recipe. The same is true with your camp. There are thousands of recipes to make a great camp. Your camp doesn't have to look like the camp you grew up at. It doesn't have to look like the camp next door. It has to look like what's best for your camp and the people that you serve. It's important to find what is your recipe. Now, equally important, when you're finding that recipe, the recipe for your perfect camp, you have to also make sure that you are intentional and that you plan and you design a camp that is serving the campers and the families that are in your community. Be intentional, find your recipe, and have a great summer.
Hello everyone. My tip for first year and second year camp staff is to set boundaries and keep them, and make sure that you take an emotional break. My research has always been about camp counselors and the emotional labor that they do on camps. And what that really means is that we use our feelings to manage the relationships and experiences that we're delivering to campers and our peers and with our managers at camp. And that stuff can be so important and rewarding and validating. It can help us understand who we are and continue to develop our own sense of identity, but it's also very exhausting. Kids, campers, peers, bosses, they all can put demands on us that can take energy. Not a bad thing for it to happen, but to know that that energy is going and you need to put something more back into the tank. So I'm going to encourage you to make sure that you take breaks, where you can take a break from the emotional demands, the psychological demands, where you can just empty your head. Now, everybody does that in different ways. Reading books, playing music, going for a walk or a run or a ride, something that just lets you get away from other folks and switch off. One of my favorite things to do is take a moment of mindfulness in nature. Mindfulness is a bit like meditation, except what it does is it helps us to use our senses, all 5 of them, to be present and in the moment and to empty our mind from all of our worries and stresses. So using your senses, what do you smell, taste, touch, see, feel, and hear? And that helps us be in the moment. And I'm sitting in my park, checking out the water, enjoying a moment of mindfulness before the day gets going. I hope you have a great summer. Bye.
A huge part of your job this summer is going to be figuring out how to build shared language with your team, with the people that work with you. How can they bring you ideas and not be afraid that they're going to be too stupid of ideas, and that you're not going to have to waste your time running through them. I like to use the 6 thinking hats from Edward de Bono. You can Google it, but basically it's like green hats are wild ideas. Yellow hat is like looking at it to figure out how to make it better, those kind of things. Anyway, that's one. MJ Yuschak, who edits the Summer Camp Society pod and has worked at a ton of camps. She's incredible. She likes to use the PTR framework, which is preferences, traditions, and requirements. So when someone comes to you and says, hey, I need to get something done, you can say, okay, the requirements are this has to be done. The tradition, the way it's been done here in the past is that, this is how it would go. And if you do it differently, that's okay, but people will look at you and think it's kind of weird. And my preference is this is the way that it gets done. It lets them make the choices about how to get something done, knowing what the box is. My personal favorite of all time is helping people know what the hidden curriculum is, or being able to use the frame, what are the hidden curriculum of this place? What are the unwritten rules that we haven't talked about that most people aren't saying out loud? So they can ask, what's the hidden curriculum? You can use that as a tool to have conversation faster. That shared language, I think, is important. You're gonna have an amazing summer. Build some shared language, bring some yourself, listen to the way that your staff speak. How do they already have shared language so you can adopt it and use their language? You're amazing. Have a great summer.
Hey there. My name is Matt, and the tip I wanted to share with you today is something that I call the better board. And it originally started as a piece of paper that I just hung on the back of my office door so people could see it when they were inside. Could be a whiteboard, could be whatever you want. But the better board was a place where when myself or when a staff member thought of something that we could improve on in the future, then it went up on the board. And then that would go into my end of year planning for next year. But the value of that was kind of twofold. One, it was public, right? So when people were in the office, they could see that I was writing down their ideas or that I would write it down. I had it in a digital file too, but it being public kind of displayed that commitment to growth. It displayed that we're not perfect and that's okay. We just want to get better and better if we can. And B, part of the benefit of it being public was it showed how much we valued people's feedback and how much I really cared, genuinely did care about it enough to write it in a public place. That, hey, we messed this up or we could do it better, but that's okay. We want that feedback. And I found that as soon as I did that, the feedback kept coming in. I would have people walk into the office and just kind of look at the board, or it would just say to me, hey, I'm going to add something to the board. And that was really cool that we could talk about it later or something like that. So I encourage you to display that commitment to growth, and the Better Board is a great tool for that. Good luck this summer. We're in your corner. We've got your back. Thanks for all you do. Bye.
My advice to a new camp director would be to do your best and trust the rest. Yes, there are things that just happen in camp that you didn't see coming or couldn't prepare for. But there's also a lot of stuff you can plan for and prepare for in camping. So I'd encourage you to really maximize your time, especially in the off seasons, to do that. Strengthen up the things that your camp does really well. Take time to evaluate gaps and create plans to address them in the following season. Put structures in place that will help support you and your camp community should a crisis occur. But there's also an element of, if you've done your due diligence, if you've done your best to plan for what's in your control, you have to let go of what's not. And you have to trust that the planning you've done in the off season to prepare your team, to prepare your camp, to prepare you, that it will be enough and you'll all be okay. You have the skills to do this summer, and so does your team. So if you've done your best, just go ahead and trust the rest.
Advice for a new camp director? Wow, this could be a 12-hour podcast. But I got 2 quickies that just came to mind. First one is, everybody's watching you, buddy. Everybody's watching your every move. They're watching your facial expression, your body language. Just know that you always have to be setting an example. All right. You have to act cool, calm, and psyched and all that kind of stuff, even when you're not, right? And you got to fake it till you make it. Okay. So in areas where you're not completely confident, act confident, very important. All right. The other thing is that when you are juggling all these different things, you're going to have 6 zillion things to do. You're not going to know where to start, right? Being a camp director is like juggling, and you have rubber balls and you have glass balls, and You got to know which ones are rubber and you got to know which ones are glass. Plain and simple, right? Don't drop those glass ones, but there's plenty of rubber ones that can wait till tomorrow. All right, so good luck. Kick some ass. We need you.
Hi there, my name is Etienne, and at camp they called me Cobalt. If I were to give some advice to a new director, I think the first thing I would recommend is to embrace the moments. When you're interacting with campers, or you see staff members interacting with campers, just take a moment and embrace that. Take that moment and write it down, reflect on it. And the second piece of advice I give is to journal. For me, camp was such a magical place growing up, and it's been 15 years since I've worked at camp. And it's the one thing I regret not doing is writing down those moments, writing down the stories, the memories, because it's been 15 years, and I feel like I've lived an entire life since my time at camp. So writing those moments down so that you can reflect at the end of the summer, reflect the year after, and as the years move on, being able to reflect as a junior director, and understanding your growth and how you've changed and evolved as camp continues to evolve. Thanks so much and good luck.
Hi everybody, I'm Beth from Camp Code, and here's my advice for new camp directors. Before staff training, prep everything. Have nothing to do during staff training. Don't work on anything. Nothing for prepping sessions, nothing for prepping the rest of the summer. Be prepared. Change your message on your cell phone, on your camp phone, and your emails saying, I'm sorry I can't get back to you right away. Here's what we're doing. And I change that message up daily so that you can tell them exactly what you're training your staff on, exactly all the important things they're going to be learning to take care of their campers. So be present, be there for every meal, sit through an entire meal 3 times a day if you're in overnight camp, and get to know those staff and let them get to know you. Be present in every session, even the ones you're not leading. Sit at the back in the ones you're not leading and watch, listen, learn, see how they're doing, see what they need, who needs help, who needs some chit chats prior to camp starting, all of those things. Be present, get to know them. Give them that gift, be present, and be their present. Have a great summer, everybody.